Hello, I'm Dawn Clemens, Social Studies teacher at Beacon High School. What you are watching is a screencast of my class website, mrsclemens.com. I'm using this screencast as part of my artifact requirement for our APPR. You will get to see examples of how my website demonstrates Danielson 1B, 1D, and 4C. Danielson 1B is demonstrating knowledge of students. So first, at the start of the school year, what I do is I take my students on a tour of my website. So I'll show them the important things on my homepage, such as how to contact me with my email address and phone number. And also, I show them how there's a very easy way, even without using the email, that they can contact me just by filling out this form. And the other thing that is most important for me to show my students at the beginning of the year is the homework page. I do the same for parents at open house. Again, I focus on the aspects that are most important to parents. So again, homework, but also extra credit, test-taking skills. I show them the specific parent section, how to help your students succeed, how to help your students study. And of course, I also show them my awesome advice for achievement and the rules and expectations. As needed, I conduct refreshers on how to use the website throughout the year. This is especially necessary as students start to lose their handouts, such as their vocabulary packets, which are distributed at the beginning of the year. If you go, for example, onto my U.S. history page, and you scroll down a little bit, what I have here is all my vocabulary lists, 1 through 25, the different side packets that go along with them, all the review guides for the entire year, the essays, all of the handouts, and any of the guided notes. I do the same for psychology. I also post the handouts as PDFs. And I do them in that format so that they can be opened by anyone on any platform. This means that students using computers at Howland Library or at home without the latest software can still open attachments. And of course, it works for Mac computers or regular PCs. Even if they're using an iPad or an iPhone, they can easily open up any of these documents. All right, our next part is Danielson 1D, Knowledge of Resources. Creating and maintaining my website requires me to have a working knowledge of quite a few resource sources to ensure the success of my students. First, the platform that I use to make my website is called Weebly. You can actually scroll down to the bottom to see its little thing. The website is free. It's a free platform to use. I personally purchased the domain name, mrsclemens.com. The reason I use Weebly is I've found it to be the most user-friendly and the most versatile. It's very easy for me to just drop in YouTube clips if I'd like to add documents, and also to have links. 21st century students crave 21st century learning. Thus, I've worked hard to stay current on apps and websites that can be used to be the most beneficial for my students. I actively curate web links. As you'll see here, I have a bunch of links for U.S. history, for psychology, global history, and general social studies links. And I also have an app section. All these are categorized according to different needs, so majors for college, class participation, different notes, how to do flashcards. I also feature several apps on my homepage, such as Selly. Selly is something that my students really enjoy. Basically, it's a way for me to send them messages on their phones or through email to remind them about things. So I can remind them if I'm doing an extra review session, remind them to bring their textbooks to class tomorrow, can even remind them of homework. I also have experimented with Class Dojo, which is a class participation tool. And many of my students use Evernote as a way to take their notes and to keep them organized. I also use Castle Learning. which is a new program that was purchased by the school district. And I use that mostly with my AIS class, but I have been expanding it to use with my students, my U.S. history students for Regents Review. I also utilize Google applications such as Google Forms to do surveys with my students, which you can see here. Lastly, my inclusion partner Wes Marshall and I have begun experimenting with flipped learning. To accomplish this, we've used Screencast-O-Matic, which is what I'm using right now, to record several lessons and post them on my YouTube channel. And so what you can see here is our first experiment. We did World War II, and we had the kids actually watch it in class. And then for homework, we assigned them the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And now what we're working on for Regents Review is a whole series here. We've started with the Constitution, and our next thing that we're going to be working on is the Supreme Court. We even found a website that we can make flashcards with that students do not need to have a smartphone for, called Quizlet. Danielson 4C, Communicating with Families. My website is essential to my ability to effectively communicate with parents and students. Parents are encouraged from the start of the school year to regularly check my website for homework assignments, for extra credit opportunities, extra handouts, and review resources. I've had many parents compliment my website and thank me for making it easy for them to keep up on their students and to keep track of how they're doing in my class. Well, this is the end of my screencast. I thank you very much for your time, and I hope that you enjoyed a little sneak peek at mrsclemens.com.